I want to welcome the Scally report. I think it's an excellent report and it's extremely comprehensive, and it has established many of the facts and the truths of the cervical check issue. And I believe it's gone a very long way to answering many of the questions that we've all had over recent months. I think the most important thing about the report is that it puts women and families front and centre in relation to this entire matter. Most importantly, Dr Scally met with the women and the families concerned. He listened to them and he recorded their views and their feelings. He really gave them a very strong voice in this whole process. And their experiences, as recorded by Dr Scally, are undoubtedly a disgrace and raise many important issues for us. I think the most significant finding and one of the most significant recommendations is the need for early legislation for mandatory open disclosure. It is extremely regrettable that at the end of last year, both the government and Fianna Fáil conspired, it has to be said, to delete the provision for mandatory open disclosure and went instead, as a result of a strong lobby, with a voluntary disclosure regime. I think that's extremely regrettable, and the shortcomings of that have been shown up very starkly. I welcome the heads of the Patient Safety Bill. It provides legal liability in respect of disclosing basic information to patients. I think it's very important that we get clarification from the Minister that the legal liability will actually apply to individual clinicians and not to healthcare providers. That is, I think, the obvious interpretation of the heads of the bill as they stand at the moment, but that is not good enough, and you have to go much further than that, Minister, and I'd like you to clarify that. This legislation, I believe, is absolutely critical in changing the culture that Dr Scally discovered. And Dr Scally has lifted the lid on a very highly paternalistic and, as he said himself, bordering on the misogynistic culture on the part of many of the 30 consultants who were involved in this. Stephen Teep himself referred to the God complex, which was a factor in this entire matter, and I think we're all too familiar with that kind of God complex that some of our legal profession display. Not only did these doctors fail to disclose key medical information to their patients, but when, thanks to Vicky Phelan, all of this issue came out into the open, the attitude and approach of those consultants was a disgrace. There must now be early follow-through in respect of those clinicians engaging with and apologising to the women and families concerned, as recommended by Dr Scally. In respect of cervical check itself, Dr Scally found major shortcomings: governance, in respect of governance, quality assurance, risk assessment, understaffing, accountability and so on. But of course this was only a microcosm of the HSE, and Dr Scally said that everywhere he went within the HSE, there were problems. Many of these issues, of course, have been addressed in the Sláinte Care report, but we need now to ensure that we take the steps recommended by Dr Scally, the principal one being to reinstate the Independent Oversight Board. And, I think it's important to point out that 88 members in this House, just 5 years ago, voted to abolish that Independent Oversight Board. So there has to be accountability in here as well as in other places. The political mishandling of this issue too, I think, needs attention. There was certainly competitive outrage, and I think a lot of the comments and the behaviour of members of this House, including members of government, did little to help the situation. Look, the issue now is how the government and you, Minister, are going to respond to these 50 recommendations. And what we need to hear from you now is what mechanism you're going to put in place to ensure that those recommendations are implemented swiftly and that we keep the focus on this issue until they're implemented in full. Thank you.